But I wish that if he was gonna play a part, that he would have played a bigger part. Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Jessie, and today I am attempting a mini vlog where I will read the January prompt for the Buzzwordathon Read Along Readathon challenge for this year. The Buzzwordathon was created by Kayla at Books and Lala, and I'll have like all of her stuff linked, you know, her channel as well as her video where she announces this year's Buzzwordathon challenges and prompts, because I think she used to do it as like a week-long readathon or something like that. But starting in 2021, she created a list of prompts for each month of the year, and then I had it, I guess, a little bit more laid back. I didn't get to participate last year. I just never made time for it. I never really wanted to put the time into it. And this year, I decided to participate. But I also decided that I wanted to try to vlog my experience participating, but I couldn't decide how I wanted to vlog it. Did I want to do a vlog that I would post at the end of the year, where I would have to keep up with like months worth of content? And that turned out to be, no, I don't want to keep up with like content for, you know, anywhere from like 12, 10, 11 months all the way up until like the month I want to put the video up. Or do I want to try to do it like seasonally almost, where, you know, I do the first 3 months, and then at the end of March I would post, you know, January, February, March's challenges. But I didn't want to do that either. So because it is still the first week of January at the time that I'm starting this video, I think I'm going to try to do like, I guess it'd be a mini vlog because it'll only be one book. And so it shouldn't really be as long as my other vlogs, which my vlogs I don't think are super long. I think typically they're about 20 to 40 minutes, depending on how many books is in them and how much I talk and if I include extra stuff. I'm just going to read the one book, try to get this up within a few days of the 7th, because the Buzzwordathon officially runs the 1st through the 7th, but it is kind of laid back, so, you know, it can go later in the month if you want it to. But January's prompts is like the 5 W's, but I think unofficially the H, like for how, is also included, which is why I'll be reading How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao. I think this book is somewhat dark academia / like a YA thriller, where the main character is a scholarship student at this really nice private school, and I think they're in New York, and she has a group of friends. One of their friends has recently turned up dead, and I'm assuming they're suspects, and they're trying to figure out what's happened to her. I actually started this book and DNF'd it in, I think, October of 2021. I had started trying to read this book at a really busy time. At the time I had read it, I had either wanted to read it as part of my YA thriller vlog or my dark academia vlog. I don't remember which one went up closest to October, but one of those I had originally planned to read this for, and I never got around to it. I'd started the book and I ran out of time. I never put it back on hold, but then recently Barnes & Noble had their like 50% off hardcover sale, so I picked it up then, and I'm about to get it read. I think similarly to my regular vlogs, I will probably check in at the 1/3, 2/3, and completed marks, and I'm not quite sure if I'm going to include extra stuff in this vlog or not. I'm assuming you'll find out around the time I find out. But anyways though, I am interested to read this book. I have read the first 2 chapters today, but I'm not really far enough to have any definite opinions. I had read the first third before, and whenever I first read the first third, the book was definitely feeling like it was going to be 4-star or better. I was intrigued, I was interested, I just ran out of time. And so I'm hoping that because today's the 4th, ideally I want to finish this, you know, by the 7th or before, like, you know, before the 7th is over. And so I do have time to finish it if I read and stuff, because school hasn't started back yet. So I have time to read it if I just sit down and read it. But I do have a few other things to do today, so I may not really get a good chance to read until this evening, but we'll see. Anyways though, I will update you once I've made some progress in this book and let you know how it's going. Alright, hey, it is the next day, and last night I made it to about 1/3 of the way through How We Fall Apart. I am enjoying it so far, and this is about as far as I made it whenever I first tried to read it near the end of 2021. And like I said, I'm enjoying it, but I am noticing myself coming up with more questions that I remembered having whenever I was first reading it. Like, it's still definitely a book that if it keeps going the way I think it will, then I think it will still be highly rated. But I keep catching myself like nitpicking little details that I didn't notice the first time around, at least in the first third of the book. I guess before I tell you what I'm kind of nitpicking, I can tell you what's actually going on. So this book is told from Nancy's first person point of view, and the chapters kind of alternate. And so like one chapter is labeled Confession X, like Confession 1, Confession 2, Confession 3. And it's like a Tip Tap post. And Tip Tap seems to be a lot like YikYak. And I don't know if YikYak is popular now still, but I remember my freshman year of college, it was used quite a bit. I remember checking it daily. I don't remember really posting anything, but I remember checking it daily just to see what was going on around campus. For the most part, it wasn't like anything like really toxic like this. I think the craziest thing I remember seeing on YikYak at the time that I went to that school was that there was like a shooting at like some apartments near the school. They weren't on campus, but they were near campus, and a fair amount of students lived there, right? And so that's kind of like the kind of stuff I checked YikYak for, just what was going on, what was happening, stuff like that. So these students seem to use TipTap quite a bit to like gossip about each other, spread drama. And then also there's this person called the proctor, who is definitely using TipTap as a platform to kind of help blackmail and possibly frame Nancy and her 3 friends for the death of Jamie Ron. The other chapters that are between, each confession are kind of flashbacks that Nancy's having to kind of fill in the space of why things are happening the way they are. For example, one of the first flashbacks is to Nancy at Jamie's house. They're doing homework together. Jamie makes some kind of catty comment. Nancy makes one back, and then Jamie puts Nancy in her place, essentially. Nancy's a scholarship student. Jamie has a lot of money. Jamie, I think, is like number 1 in their class. Nancy's number 2. And so the book is alternating like that. A confession and what's happening present time. Chapter 1, Nancy is having to give the speech that Jamie's supposed to give because Jamie's not there for some reason. There's also been a falling out between Jamie and the rest of the group recently. And it's not really a falling out that I would say is completely Jamie's fault. Although Jamie's definitely not a likable person. But the reason for the fallout has more to do, I guess, with like the social structure of the school and all the students at the school and their parents. Nancy's having to give this speech, and then at the end of the speech, which she has reviewed before, a slideshow pops up with something stolen out of her diary that is kind of incriminating based off what's going to keep happening as the book goes on. And then the students all, before the ceremony's completely over, they all get a text saying like, Jamie's era has come to an end. And then it goes into a flashback, I believe, or maybe another confession. For the most part, the confessions and flashbacks are pretty, alternating one to one. But every now and then there might be 2 confessions to a flashback. The next day, it is confirmed that Jamie's dead. The proctor starts posting on TipTap. The proctor makes this post that is definitely very incriminating, very blackmaily, and it's almost a riddle, but it's not quite a riddle. And it's, which of the friends are involved, and it like lists dirt that the proctor apparently has on each of them. They may not all know about this dirt on each other. I'm not quite sure. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm definitely into it. But at the same time, I have more questions than I had the first time I read it. My first question is, and this is just me, I feel like I'm just throwing this at the wall every time I read a YA thriller, but is Nancy going to be an unreliable narrator? I feel like every time I read a YA thriller lately, I'm just throwing that at the wall, and one day it's going to stick. One day I'm going to find an unreliable narrator and be right about it. The first sentence of Confession 1 is, it was easy stepping into her skin. Wearing it as well as she did was another matter. And I don't know if I'm reading too much into it. She's so ready to step into Jamie's skin out of nowhere. And so part of me wonders, might Nancy be an unreliable narrator? My next question, and this is something I don't guess I picked up on last time, but the principal is very concerned with, keeping the reputation of their school all nice and pristine because, the school makes a lot of money whenever parents donate, and parents aren't going to donate if the school is shrouded in scandal. But he's really taking like the investigation pretty far himself, in my opinion, just so far. As soon as the TipTap post is posted, he has Nancy and her friends, Akil, Alexander, and Crystal all come to his office, and he flat asks him, are any of you involved in this? And then he like kind of goes into, well, if you're involved, I need to know what you know, I need to know before the police know, essentially. It was just kind of sketchy and weird, so could he be involved? Or is he just overly protective of the school's reputation, given the fact that a student just died and he's more concerned with reputation than, a student death? I'm interested to see how this will keep going. Good morning. I just woke up a few minutes ago. I haven't brushed my hair yet, so it's a little extra messy right now. But I'm trying to update you real fast before Rowan wakes up. It's like 8, and so I'm trying to update this video, get the dog out before he wakes up, and also before my heater kicks back on, because it is so loud, but also it's kind of cold and I don't want to turn it all the way off and then forget to turn it back on. But last night I made it 2/3 of the way through How We Fall Apart, and I'm definitely enjoying it. I think I enjoyed the middle third more since I hadn't read the middle third before, and so I learned about more of what to expect. A few things have happened. We've learned for sure what Crystal and Alexander's secrets are, and I'm starting to wonder if one of the friends is the proctor, which obviously should have been, like a thought early on, and it kind of was, but at the same time I was like, that feels too obvious. But one of the friends seems to be having a slightly easier time with the proctor's revelations than the other friends do. At the time I read this, Nancy's secret was just revealed to the school, And whenever I start reading it again, there will be like a background chapter with Nancy, like, you know, going over, I guess, the background of her secret. This guy Nancy was kind of seeing that she kind of shouldn't have been seeing, that's over. Thankfully, I didn't like the guy. I feel like I'm getting bad vibes from him. I also feel like he could also be a lot more involved than I originally thought. So I'm interested to see where this goes in the last third. Today is Friday the 7th. Today is technically the last day of the Buzzword-a-thon, like for the official 1st through 7th part of it. Also, I'm kind of suspicious of the principal. I don't know why or how or like what's causing it, but it's just, it feels weird with how devoted he is to the case, but also it feels like his character is supposed to somehow play a bigger and smaller role than he does. Because, like, you know, in the first third, he plays a big role and be like, hey, I need to know what goes on. I need to know what goes on before the police do, blah, 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 right? And then this third, he's like, yeah, I gave the evidence to the police. They didn't find anything on it. Just stuff like that. Just, he doesn't seem as concerned about the case as he did originally. Ideally, I'll be finishing this today, but we do have a lot going on. I need to mop, which I hate mopping, but it needs to be done. I plan on making a cake because Rowan's birthday is tomorrow, and I'm going to attempt to make it cute. We'll see how it goes because I do this every year, never happy with it. But thankfully they're only for me, Chris, and Rowan, so it doesn't matter if they're ugly because I don't have to go show anybody. Anyways though, I will update you once I finish this book. I finished How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao, and I think it's going to be a 4-star rating. The end of the book was really good. It was really intense. So we finally find out exactly what happened between Nancy and this one person, and you know what her big secret is. And then at the same time, you also kind of get to see this countdown to the final moments to the reveal of the proctor. And I will say that who the proctor is, I did not see coming. I almost at one point it was going to be one of the friends, or maybe, you know, the person who died hadn't really died. I wasn't expecting the proctor to be who the proctor was, and I like how it happened. I thought the meet with the proctor at the end was a little melodramatic. The proctor seemed like extra dramatic, but also this is a very high stakes situation for these kids. There have been a lot of secrets released. There's a lot of stuff coming to the surface. Overall, I do think I like the way this book tied up, and I really enjoyed this book, and it was a really good book. There are a few things that like I was a little iffy about, which is why it got a 4-star rather than a 5-star. I felt like with the first third of the book, the principal was so like gung-ho. He wants to know exactly what's going on. He wants to be in charge and figure out what's going on from that one scene with him. I kind of wish he was a little bit more intrusive in Nancy and her friends investigating. I kind of wish he would have played a bigger role, even though I didn't understand why he played a role to begin with. But I wish that if he was gonna play a part, that he would have played a bigger part. But I will say that throughout the book, there's really no likable character. All these people or all these kids or students who've done kind of bad things, for the most part, they seem to be trying to move on. So I'd say Nancy's friends are closer to being likable, but Nancy herself, I really wanted her to be likable. I wanted to enjoy her. Or I would have liked for her to have been a likable character, but she was not a likable character. She makes some decisions that's questionable. You can kind of see it, like whenever you're reading the book, that she is not a great person, but she's trying to portray herself as a good person and everything, but she knows she's not, and I guess at least she knows she's not. And so at the end of the book, there's this final big secret that Nancy learns of, and I wish that I would have learned of it too, because it has to do with like students in the past who are related to Alexander a little bit more closely than they are related to like Nancy and the rest of the group, and so I wish I would have learned what that secret was. But overall, this was a really good read. It was really fun. It held my attention, and I finished it by the 7th, so I did complete the January Buzzword-a-thon challenge. That's it for this little vlog. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please let me know if you've read this book and what you think, or if you participated in the Buzzword challenge for January. What book did you read? Thank you once again for taking time to watch this video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.